Hey y'all. So I'm actually not ready to go live yet. But since I know you all don't get on right away, that's actually okay. So I'm going to set this up on Instagram. And for those of you that may be catching the replay, you will skip this part and I'll tell you where to go. Alrighty. So, hey, it is Charisma Cares, nurse practitioner, real estate investor, special needs and disability coach, and a couple of different things. So I got on today because, as always, I get on when I have something on my mind, and I was doing a interview with top female medical providers for 2025. And the interviewer asked me, what made me turn to functional medicine? And this is not going to be all about functional medicine, but it's something that I want you to listen to and dig a little deeper for yourself, right? So, in talking to her, I started talking about my son and how he's seeing his doctors now, and the doctors are saying he's doing great. They don't really know why, but he just is. I'm living abroad. The thing that I can credit is outside of moi, but honestly, is the eating. We eat the food we eat that is sold as organic in the US is normal food abroad. The movement, you do more walking and moving around when you live abroad. Um, the chemicals and ingredients allowed in the food in the US is not allowed in the food in somewhere else. So I tell people it's not like we made major changes. He still eats Fruit Loops, but the Fruit Loops overseas may have four ingredients, and the Fruit Loops in the US may have 15 or 20 ingredients. Which is the processing that causes us so many problems, so much inflammation in our body, which contributes to high blood pressure, high cholesterol, diabetes, and all of these different things. Um, and it wasn't that I realized at the moment that what we were doing was going to make him better physically and mentally, make him healthier. I just thought we were living abroad. So when I was talking to the interviewer of the top medical providers for 2025, I told her that that's what made me look into functional medicine because I couldn't contribute his improvement to anything else other than these major changes and maybe living somewhere that's less stressful. And when she asked me about what makes it less stressful, I mentioned my response was living to work versus working to live. When you work to live, you work just enough to do what it is that you need to do. You don't have to, we spend about 40 hours a week working, 20, probably, let's see, 2 hours a day, 10 to 20 hours a day commuting, and probably 5 hours a day decompressing. And everyone's not able to just leave. I mean, that's not realistic, right? So we have to find the things in our day to day life that make a difference. And it's those small things that really make a big difference. Those are the things that really build up and make changes in your life. People that are working from home are so much less stressed than people that have to go into the job. And going into the job is really just for the company to be able to see you and micromanage you. Because let's be honest, whether I'm at the job or not at the job, if my productivity is the same or better, studies have shown productivity has gone up since people have worked from home. So, if that is the case with my productivity, why do you need to see me every day? Why is it necessary for me to clock in the building? Because the building costs more money. That building fund can go to our our Christmas bonus or go towards our raises because 1% just isn't doing it. So it's things like that. And, as they try to get away from the stay at home jobs, we may see an uptick in depression and anxiety and OCD as people have to come back around people. And let's be honest, in a world where the majority of our life is virtual, whether that's Facebook, Instagram, working, FaceTiming, all of those different things, coming back around people can be stressful in itself. Um, so that's just one of the ways that you can help. Taking frequent breaks just to sit, breathe, listen to some music, take some deep breaths, reground yourself, especially for people that deal with customer service, especially for people that deal in any type of customer service. I don't care if it's at a doctor's office, if it's at the McDonald's, if it's at a hotel. When you deal with customer service, you I haven't seen statistics, but I have to assume that you deal with a lot more stress. And we bring all of those stressors on ourselves, and we have to find a way to release it, because as it sits there, it causes all of these disorders, all of this diabetes, stroke, high blood pressure. All of these things are caused by that. So it's a matter of carving out our own happiness within the things that we have to do. Most of us have to work 40 hours to survive. Unfortunately, the way things are going, some people have to work more than 40 hours to survive. And it's unfortunate because we place a lot on our workplace. A lot of us is based within our workplace. It's based within what we do, instead of being based off of us as individuals. What's important to us? A lot of times I ask a person, what are your hobbies? And they can't come up with any. Like, what have you done in the last month that makes you happy? And that's a hard question for some people. It's very difficult to say, this is what I did in the last month that made me happy. Because guess what? You're doing everything else but what really makes you happy. You're taking care of all of your adult responsibilities. You're taking care of your bills. You're taking care of, family, whether it's children or elderly parents. You're taking care of, whatever else you got to take care of, your car notes, your rent, your mortgage, all of these different things. And you're working, you're living to work. But I really challenge you to focus on working to live. You can, if you make a budget, you can make a budget. Maybe cut some things out. My daughter, it was so funny. My daughter told me one day, now that she's grown, she said we were one of the first people to cut cable and get Netflix. I was cutting cable and got Netflix before anybody else I knew. I was going through a time where I was recently divorced. My son was sick and I wasn't able to work as often. And so I needed to cut some things. And well, cable was expensive and it was the easiest thing to cut. So when she wanted to watch Rick and Marty or Rick and Morty, something like that, she would go over her friend's house. And I was completely okay with that because otherwise y'all can watch this Netflix. If it will save us $200 a month, when we're trying to do a budget, Netflix is as good as anything else. So that's what we would do. We would watch Netflix. And those are the ways that I would just cut small corners. You know, we had to make some choices, and some choices were a little harder than others, but it was very important to me because I was my job was so up and down, and not because of them, but because of myself and my situation, being a newly divorced single parent, having a kid in elementary or middle, and then having a child that was disabled. I just didn't know when I was going to not be able to work. So I learned pretty early during that time, this was over 10 years ago, how to work to live and not live to work. And I don't know if that makes sense. Working to live is when you work enough to pay what needs to be paid. Living to work is when your whole source of everything, your survival is based off of going to this job and putting this job at the source of everything. That job is just king. And I think that in today's society, that should not be the case. It should not be that our jobs are very important, our money is very important, but we want to have it in a place where it doesn't rule our life. It was when I was in my 20s, and I was working at this company as a registered nurse. And I'll never forget it. I was probably like early mid 20s. And I'll never forget it. This nurse ran circles around the rest of us. We were all salary, so she shifted her schedule to from morning to afternoon hours to accommodate for the facility that she covered. We all covered specific facilities. So she moved her hours to accommodate for that facility. She worked weekdays and weekends. We had a call team so that would work from 5 p.m. to 8 a.m. the next day. So everybody would rotate call. Nobody else did call on her building. Only she did call on her building, which means that not only did she work during the day or during the evening, on weekends, but she still went to the building if they needed something after hours. They called her personal number. She did this for some years. When I got there, this is where she was. Well, somebody came in and there was something that happened, and they decided they didn't want her in that building anymore. It didn't seem like they did a whole lot of stuff. They just decided we don't want her here anymore. Her whole life had been based off of this building. She changed her sleeping schedule, her working schedule. This building came first. These were the people that came first. She was married and she had a child, but this is who came first. Shortly after, maybe a couple of months later, she died. She worked her behind off for these people. When I tell you, I would never do it. But she worked her behind off. She always looked tired. She always looked disheveled. You know, they were always calling her to do everything, morning, noon, or night. She worked her behind off. This was for a hospice company. And for her funeral, they sent her the same spray of flowers that they send every hospice patient. Management didn't go to her funeral. Even though we're in hospice, we are allowed to go to funerals. She left behind a husband and a son. She lived to work, and she died working hard. And at the end, they did not care. They did not care that she sacrificed her weekends, that she should have been with her family to take care of patients. They didn't care that she got up every night that they called to take care of patients. They didn't care that she switched from mornings to afternoon, evening when she really could have been with her family. Because guess what? When you have children, your children are home in the afternoon and evening. But she was at work, working. And I'll never forget her, never forget her name, never forget her face, because she taught me the most valuable lesson at such a young age. I was mid 20s, probably like 24, 25. I don't know. I was a fairly new registered nurse. I graduated at 21. But the lesson that she taught me in such hit me so hard. I was already very strict on family time versus work time. I was going to be there for my children, and there was nothing that was going to take that away. I have left jobs that intruded on my family time. And that taught me a valuable lesson that first, companies don't give a damn. You die tomorrow, your seat is filled by Monday. They don't care. You're just a warm body. It doesn't matter how much they say they care. Bottom line is they don't care. They just need a warm body. It also taught me that it's important to prioritize what's important to me, myself, my family, my hobbies. It's important to set boundaries. She didn't set boundaries. She gave and she gave and she gave and she gave. And the one time she made a mistake, they just got rid of her. So it taught me to set boundaries, very hard, strict boundaries. Any of my supervisors can tell you my boundaries were very hard, stick. It was drawn in the sand and would not be erased. I did not work after 4:30. It was time for me to go home. I do not work weekends. And the only time you get me to work overtime is for double time. So, and it may be being an RN at the time, I had a little more leeway because I could quit a job and get another job. But even if you don't, it is important that you set boundaries based off of the guidelines for that job. Because when you start to give an inch, they will take a mile. And they're going to take it regardless because you gave it. It's not, and they're not going to do that to someone else. They're only going to do it to who they feel like they can get away with it. So it's important that when we're talking about working to live versus living to work, that we realize that this is based off of us. People only do what you allow them to do to you, whether it's in relationships, friendships, work relationships. They do what you allow them. That's why they make a beeline to a certain person because they know that certain person is going to do it. Everybody else is going to say, no, I'm busy. I don't have time for that. That's not my job. But it's this one person that they're going to make a beeline for because that is the person that they know is going to do it. They're not going to say no. They're not going to put up a big fuss. Typically they're never going to ask for a raise. They're not doing that. They're just going to do what it is that you tell them to do, even if it's out of their scope of practice or line of work, even if it's even if they're swamped, they're going to take it on. And in taking it on, you're creating what am I trying to say? You're creating a pattern. And for the people that normally take those things on during work, are also the people that normally take those things on at home too. So you make a pattern of, in a sense, being beat up on. And then you wonder, why am I beat up on? Why do they always do this to me? Why not anyone else? But we teach people how to treat us. When we teach people that we have no boundaries, then they treat us as if we have no boundaries. When we teach people that we are accepting of any treatment, then they'll treat us however we tell them to. It's all about the way that you set things up and the way that you do things. No one can make you do anything one way or another. And I think it's important that we look at that, as we're going into a new year, and we'll start a new year, new you, new this, new that. But let's do some reflection on the old us, because I'm going to be honest, just because the clock turns midnight doesn't really mean there's a new you there. It's really just the same you in a new year. So it should be more about improving the same you instead of recreating a new you. So the question is, what do you want to improve on? What's important to you? What are some things that you're like, it's time for me to draw that line in the sand? Because you're just as important as anyone else. What makes you any less important? What why isn't this work spread amongst all of us? Because you allow it. That story always gets me when I think about that woman that died, even to it's what, almost 20 years later, 15 years later, and it still gets to me. And I don't want you all to be like that. I want you to live a well-rounded life. Even if you're like charisma, that has been me all my life. It doesn't have to continue to be you. You can make some changes, do some things that benefit you. Find a hobby. For me, I just started doing golf. I tried it once when I was at the beach and I enjoyed it. So I started playing golf. That's my new hobby. I'm about to start learning Swahili. That's a hobby. I've started reading more. That's a hobby. These are just simple things, can be hobbies. Simple things that make life worth living. Simple things that are more than what do you do for a living, because we're more than that. But for a lot of us, myself included, I was just a nurse and a nurse practitioner. That's what I was. That's all. I didn't really know a whole lot more. Excuse me. I didn't know a whole lot more to say than that. I mean, I'm a nurse practitioner. I'm a mom, daughter, sister. But that's not who I am. Those are labels. Those are labels. And we go by labels, we identify by labels. However, the question is, who are you? What do you enjoy? You know, um, this may sound a little morbid, but what would someone write on your tombstone? For my grandmother, we wrote something of the nature that she didn't listen, she understood, and it was some other things. But that was important. She didn't just listen to you, she understood you. What would someone say about you? What impact would you want to leave on this world? And if you don't care about the world, what impact do you want to leave on your family? Do you really want to be that person where they don't have much to say other than you always worked? Because your presence is more important to your family than anyone else. Like I said, when you're gone, they could care less about they could care less about you, whether you quit or you die. They don't, these jobs, they don't care. What they do care about, who I'm sorry, who does care is your family. So I want you to take some time to think about things that you want to improve on for 2025. Not new year, new me. No, same you, new year, improved you. Think about some things that are important to you for 2025. Take some time over this holiday season and the break you may have and write some things down. Something, write down what's important to you. What are some things you want to do and just haven't had the time? A lot of times we think everything costs money. I was going to pay for these Swahili lessons. I just found out the Swahili lessons are very, very cheap if I go to the museum. You may find that maybe you want to learn a new language. You may find that they have classes at the library because everything doesn't have to be paid, or it could be a nominal charge. You want to do Audible. Well, don't do Audible, do Libby, Libby. It's Audible books for free through the library. Maybe you want to start reading. Maybe you want to start a book club. Maybe, when I was into the church a lot, I would go to a crochet class. Now, the only thing I ever made was a little cozy for the cup, but it gave me a new activity to do. And I think that's important. Ernestine said yoga, tapping, walking, communicating, body of water, sitting and meditating, volunteering in my community. And she said, that's at 77 years old. So, what's our excuse again? What's our excuse for not being happy? What's our excuse for not living the life we want to live? What's our excuse for always being stressed the F out? Some of it is environmental, some of it is nutrition, some of it is physical. All of that falls on the environmental. And we can work on that if you want. But the part that I'm talking about today is what can you do? How can you make a change with those small things that you can do to improve your life and improve your quality of life? Those are the things we should be looking for as we go into 2025, improving our quality of life. And let's see, we are doing a vision board party for 2025. And you would think I would know when that is. That is on January 12th, Sunday, January 12th. We are doing a vision board party. That registration is not up yet, but I will get it up for you. But this is how you get to those classes. So I'll post that link. Yeah. So as always, I do a monthly class, a free monthly class. So this December, we're doing love, loss, and survival during the holidays. That will be on December 14th. So that's your free class for the month if you're dealing with that. And then the vision board party will be January 12th. So those are all, those are free. I like to do the free classes every month. But if y'all don't sign up, I will cancel. I'm just letting y'all know. So they're free, but I can't be on there by myself. So I posted that is the class here, holisticbreakclinic.com/live masterclasses. So go on there if you want to join. Again, these are free classes. And I wish you love, light, and happiness as we go through the remainder of 2024. We are, what, 7, 14, 21, 28 days until the new year. So let's see, I challenge you to take some time and decide what it is that you would like to improve on because it's the same you, just a new year. All right, y'all, I've been on here 30 minutes. So, on that note, get back to work because I'm sure it's 1 o'clock and lunchtime is over. And I will see you all next time.